Welcome to our fifth installment of the Let's Lock It Down series. We appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon and learn a little bit more about what's going on in the cybersecurity space. Today's topic is securing the end user. My name is Chris Groh, and I'm a consultant here at ATC on our Delta team, which is our client account managers, project managers, and solution seekers. Our Delta team works hard to find the exact right solution for our clients, leveraging our expertise in the space, our Delta process, and then leaning on our strong network of providers. We host these webinars every 2 months. Our next one will be on May 23rd, 2024 at 1:30, same time, May 23rd. After today's webinar, you'll receive a follow-up email. You can submit feedback and a link to register for the next session. And we do appreciate that feedback as it comes in. Before we get any further, I'd like to introduce my colleague here today, Doug Neuheisel.
Hey everyone, my name is Doug Neuheisel. I'm the team lead here of our Delta team at ATC. Thank you all for joining. As Chris mentioned, today we're focusing on securing your end users. Some examples of tools that you can implement are things like patch management, email security, endpoint protection, security awareness training, some of the others that you see here on your screen. We could probably spend half an hour or more talking about each of these topics individually. So we're going to go high level today. We're going to cover a lot of the basics in a short amount of time. Please ask questions as we go. There's a Q&A section, and we can address those at the end. We're happy to set up a follow-up call with anyone in attendance after this webinar to dive deeper into any of these topics. And there's other components that make up your cybersecurity posture as an organization that we're not covering today. Those will be covered in future webinars. But again, today we're covering all relatively low cost, easy to deploy technologies and tools that cover your organization's number one risk, your end user.
Okay, just before we dive into those tools and technologies you saw on that last slide, just wanted to cover some breach data. You'll see the sources in the bottom right where we got this information, but just kind of set the stage for why this is important on a broader scale. So 70% of breaches do involve the human element. We're going to talk a lot about that today, with the end user being where that human element and our machines and our tools interact. 83% of breaches do involve external actors, and most of them are financially motivated. 50% of all social engineering attacks are pre-texting incidents. So that's a cyber criminal reaching out to an individual, trying to gather some personal identifiable information from them as kind of a pretext event, and then you're going to use that information that you've gathered then to breach a system in the future. That's actually doubled since last year. Again, we're going to talk about teaching your users how to look out for this. So we'll touch more on that here shortly. 73% of small and medium-sized businesses reported that they experienced a cyber attack in 2022 or 23. So this is not just your enterprise, larger businesses that can be affected. It's affecting the SMB space as well. And then the average data breach is costing companies nearly $4.5 million, which is a 15% increase over the last 3 years. And most of that is coming from lost business during that breach, or not most of it, but 40% of that is impacting that lost business. So we'll go ahead and dive into the different solutions.
We're starting off here with one of my favorite tools that I use to do my job. Honestly, I don't think I could live without a password manager at this point, especially in my personal life. The problem here is that everyone has so many different systems and websites that they're logging into every day. And you have to have a password, right? And a set of credentials to get into all those systems. The average email address is associated with over 130 accounts. And employees are reusing weak passwords all the time. So they're using the same password across these different websites and applications that they're accessing to do their job. And they're often very weak passwords. Things like spring 2024 exclamation point and things like that, super easy to breach. And if those are used across multiple systems, they only need to gain access to one to really start trying the rest of those websites and systems with the same credentials and get into those. So there's actually a report from LastPass that found that 91% of users were aware of the risks of reusing passwords, but only 61%, actually 61% continued to do it anyways. They knew of the risk, but it was convenient for them to just continue to use weak, reused passwords across these different tools. So a password manager is a tool that allows users to store, track, and share, even protect and manage all of their passwords that they use. This is stored in a cloud-based data vault. You only need to remember one master password to gain access. So you come up with one very long, complex password, 20 characters if you can or more, exclamation, symbols and capitalization, all the different characters, make it long, make it complex. You only need to remember one, and that will give you access to the rest of your passwords. Like, I don't even know any of my passwords for anything personal or business except for that master password. All of my passwords are crazy, random, long, complex passwords so that they're more secure. I just need to remember that one. It makes it very easy to generate strong and unique passwords through the application. Very easy to access through like a Chrome or other web browser extensions. Within the tool, it actually gamifies things. So it'll give you a security score for each of your users. It will show how many reused passwords they have and give you scores on like strength of those passwords too. We'll call out dark web monitoring. So if any of your credentials were leaked on the dark web, it will actually notify you, let you know that you need to change those passwords. Of course, there's benefits to administrators on the IT team, more visibility, ease of management, enforcing those password policies. And then another stat here, 55% of people report that they just use their memory to remember and recall their passwords. It's not good.
Yeah, there's a question in here too, which we'll try and get to briefly because I know we've got a lot to cover, but it says, would you recommend LastPass? If so, why? Or maybe take a broader approach and look at.
Yeah, so LastPass is a great solution. The only issue there is they had a breach. It's either early last year or the year before. LastPass, yeah, they've had a couple breaches actually, I think. So might shy away from that one for now, but it was a great tool. There's others out there though. So it's finding the right one and evaluating the different options that are out there in the marketplace. Some other features that are available, we talked about like browser extension, the dark web monitoring, gamification, but also like secure password sharing. So you're actually able to share passwords within your organization with each other. You can even share passwords that are completely hidden. Like it will allow the other person to use that password, but they can't actually view or edit what it is. And then just simplified employee onboarding and offboarding. If you're offboarding an employee, you can cut off their password manager access and they immediately don't have access to their login credentials for any of their systems. Another awesome thing, lastly here, a lot of these corporate password manager accounts come with personal accounts too. So you might get up to 5 personal accounts that you can use, for yourself, your family, and friends.
All right, and the next tool we want to discuss here is endpoint protection or endpoint security. What is that? It's a essentially managed security solution that organizations leverage to protect various endpoints. So servers, workstations, mobile devices, laptops, protecting all of those from cyber threats. How are they doing that? They're examining files, processes, and system activity, looking for suspicious or malicious indicators or behavior. And then why do you need this? Just looking at the endpoint landscape, it continues to grow as more and more companies adopt remote and hybrid work environments. So it's really common for users to have multiple mobile devices now for work. So not only are the number of endpoints for each user growing, but the number of remote and hybrid users are also growing. So it just adds to that complexity and really making your end user that first line of defense. So it's important to secure that. And they are outside that traditional perimeter you know, inside your offices. Now they're working from home and working out on the road. We mentioned earlier that the majority of these breaches do involve a human element. So the goal here is to protect your systems and your important data without interfering with legitimate business activities. That's, you know, often the push and pull with security is, you know, you want to lock down as much as possible, but also, you know, allow your users to do what they do best, which is, you know, helping support and grow your businesses. They can be highly effective to mitigate risk, but nothing's going to mitigate everything. And so it's kind of going to be a theme throughout this is, you know, making sure your end user is educated on what they should be looking for things that are malicious or suspicious. These endpoint protection solutions include a variety of things: anti-malware, next generation antivirus, data encryption, personal firewalls, intrusion protection systems, and offer sandboxing. You know, to name some of the few capabilities of endpoint protection. And moving on to EDR there, traditional endpoint protection focuses on prevention. Sorry, I see we have a threat or a question in the chat. Sorry, the traditional endpoint security focuses on prevention with, you know, using these suite of technologies mentioned above, whereas endpoint detection and response, EDR, is an extension of that, focusing on detecting and responding to incidents that manage to bypass your existing protections or security measures. I know we're already almost halfway through, so we might have to keep some of these questions to the end and see if we can get to them.
Yeah.
Okay. We can move on.
All right, I think we've all probably used multi-factor authentication before. We were just talking about passwords. You know, that's the traditional method of authentication, a username and a password. Obviously, you want to have strong passwords, but taking it a step further is adding a second or multi-factor beyond just a second factor. But basically, this is requiring users to verify their identity through multiple credentials before they can gain access. Those factors can include something that you know, like that password, something that you have, like your phone or a token, or something you are, like your fingerprint or even facial recognition. Some of the benefits, of course, increased security. If your password gets compromised, the threat actors still need to have that other factor to gain access. So they're less likely to have your phone or your fingerprint, right? And then protecting against phishing. So those codes that you can receive as a source of multi-factor authentication are often time sensitive. They're not reusable, so less susceptible to being compromised to a phishing attack. And then compliance. A lot of industries have regulations around PCI, DSS, and others that require MFA to protect your data. Multi-factor versus SSO, or single sign-on. So multi-factor is really focusing on the security aspect because it's adding another factor for authentication, where SSO is just one single set of credentials. It's really focusing on convenience. So nothing wrong necessarily with SSO, but they are two different things. I know multi-factor can be annoying at times. You know, you have to get your phone out, get that code, type it in. But security doesn't always come with convenience. I would say too, there's really some limitations with multi-factor and SSO in that not every application, not every website that you're going to provides the option to do multi-factor SSO. So that kind of goes back to the password manager and still having like very strong passwords to gain access when MFA isn't an option. You definitely want to probably go through the different applications and tools that your users are using and see if they have rolled out the option for multi-factor.
Okay, moving on to email security. Email is widely known as the #1 threat vector for cyber attacks, and cyber criminals are constantly tweaking their tactics and techniques to exploit email vulnerabilities. The majority of malware is being delivered via email, and the majority of these phishing attacks are coming through email. Obviously, there's different vectors, but email is definitely one of the main ones. So it's really crucial to shore up and have a strong security posture in the realm of email security, where it's not inherently built in, to the email solution. You can do this with tools and technology, but also, again, back to security awareness training, which we'll get to here shortly. Email is obviously critical to business operations and how you communicate. Email is not going anywhere, so we have to learn how to live with it and best operate within it, and adapt and learn. Some of the ways email security works is preventing this email-based cyber attacks and unwanted communication. So it can protect you from inbox takeover, from domain spoofing, phishing, preventing fraud, blocking known malware, filtering out spam, and then encrypting your emails and the contents of those emails. And large and small organizations are at risk of this. You've obviously seen it probably in your business life, to that email address. You've seen it to your personal email address. It's very, very prevalent. So unfortunately, no one's really exempt from these threats.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier, and everybody knows data breaches are expensive. Employees are your primary risk for targeted threats. And we really want to make sure that your employees are trained and they know what to look out for, so they're not clicking on or downloading or responding to the wrong thing. So this is where security awareness training is huge. It's a corporate-wide initiative. It helps employees identify and avoid cyber threats. Sometimes they're distributed to users as like reading modules or videos. If you can make those videos like funny or entertaining, there's more adoption. But also through fake but realistic phishing attempts. Those different types of modules and exercises cover common topics like phishing, password protection, social engineering, and really just how to use your system on a public network, what's safe and what's not. You should really tailor this to your organization and cover the things that are the biggest threat to you. And really, I would suggest don't try building this out on your own and managing it on your own in-house and creating the content on your own, because these are low-cost solutions that are delivered as a service. And there's better time that you could have spent elsewhere, better content that's created by others. So I definitely suggest sourcing as a service. Some other data here is that 91% of organizations use security awareness training to reduce the cyber risk related to user behavior. 64% use it to change that user behavior, 61% to address regulatory requirements, 55% to comply with internal policies. This is huge, though. I think this is one of the #1 things. If your users know what to look out for, they know what to respond to, what's fake or what's real, know to maybe get a second approval, like you get an email or a text message from your CEO apparently to buy gift cards or wire money or something. Don't just respond to that through the same channel like a text. Pick up the phone, call them, walk over to their office if they're there. Just confirm before you do something that might impact your business and your reputation.
All right. Next here, we've got mobile device management, or MDM. This is a software that allows IT administrators to control, secure, and enforce policies on your smartphones, tablets, and other endpoints. Really, the goal here of MDM is to maximize your device support, your organizational functionality, and security, but you're also allowing your users a degree of flexibility. So if a user prefers a specific device or a specific operating system, MDM allows you to leverage this tool and giving that flexibility back to your user. Or if you're working within a BYOD, bring your own device environment, where the user supplies that device, not the company, or a hybrid where it's a little bit where it's a mix of both. MDM helps you manage, again, that support, deployment, and security across all of these devices, regardless of that environment that you're working with. Why it's important, obviously, security being the subject of this webinar, that's where we want to start. There's growing concerns that security breaches are stemming from employee mobile device usage. So this allows those IT admins to enforce security policies on those mobile devices across the board. And you don't have to do it, across everyone. You can segment out your users, whether it's in a certain department where they deal with confidential information more, or a certain level of employee that might have different policies associated with them. Obviously, that kind of leads into simplified deployment because you can standardize your mobile device management practices across the board, easy, consistent, scalable, and so the benefits are really vast here. And one of the biggest advantages here outside of security is saving time through automating these tasks that you would have to take on yourself otherwise. And you're going to get increased productivity and efficiency with MDM. You can not allow non-essential applications to be used on these mobile devices during business hours. So could help your bandwidth as well.
This one's a little bit more complex, one of those that we could probably spend 30 to an hour talking about alone. But to simplify it, every organization has some kind of sensitive data. That could be credit card information, intellectual property, health or medical records. And we just want to prevent that data getting exposed. So data loss prevention, or DLP, it's really a set of tools and processes that are used to ensure that that sensitive data is not lost or leaked to unauthorized users. DLP solution is really the combination of some of your more common cybersecurity measures like your firewalls, your endpoint protection, monitoring service, and antivirus software. They also can leverage AI, machine learning, and automation to prevent breaches and detect anomalous activity within your network. There's three main types of DLP: network DLP, endpoint DLP, and cloud. Network really tracks and analyzes the network activity and the traffic across to your network and to the cloud. It includes like monitoring your email, messaging, and file transfers, while endpoint monitors all of your endpoints like servers, computers, laptops, mobile devices, and cloud being designed to protect organizations that leverage cloud repositories or data storage within the cloud. Some of the main causes of data leakage are exfiltration, insider threats, and negligence. And when it comes to the end user, it comes back to training and process is everything. Of course, you could have a rogue employee, so that's where some of the AI automation looking at anomalous activity really comes into play.
Okay, web content filtering. So this is another technology that monitors web activity and prevents users from accessing certain websites that have malicious content or are deemed inappropriate or even suspicious, for that business use. So how it works: users are requesting a web resource. That web filtering technology scans that website before resolving that DNS request. So it's before you're even getting there. So it'll scan that website. If it's suspicious or malicious, it will, it won't resolve that. And if it isn't and it's all good, then it will resolve that DNS request and the user will get access to that web resource. The web is obviously another dominant vector in cybercrime, but another key component to the work we do every day. Back to, how can you tighten up your security posture, but also allow your users to do what they need to do to be productive and effective with their jobs. So it's just another layer that you can add to your security stack, stopping that malicious activity before it gets into your network. The major benefits here, obviously, increased security for your devices, both on and off the network. We talked a little bit about productivity before, but if you're not allowing certain websites to be accessed during work hours, it's going to help with that. It can also help reduce shadow IT. So you're seeing certain websites that are commonly associated with shadow IT and not permitted from your IT personnel. This web content filtering can help with that as well.
I think we're all probably familiar with a VPN, virtual private network. This is encrypting your network traffic securing your remote users as they work on public networks. Say they're working from Starbucks or the airport or Panera or something like that. They're on a public network. You want to make it harder for hackers to access your company's confidential data. And really what is happening there is it's creating a secure tunnel between your device and your company's network, and ensuring that that communication between the two is inaccessible. There's a couple different types. So site-to-site VPN or remote access VPN. Site-to-site being, connecting your branch offices to a central network over the internet. Obviously today we're seeing more SD-WAN or SASE solutions, or maybe still point-to-point connections to accomplish this, similar to a site-to-site VPN. And then remote access really revolving around that user. It allows that individual user to remotely connect to your central network. And then full tunnel versus split tunnel VPNs. A full tunnel VPN is where you're routing all of your traffic through your central network. But this can kind of create congestion, like bandwidth congestion, and it's not as scalable, but it can be more secure. And a split tunnel VPN is where you're actually routing only specific traffic that you want destined for your data center through the VPN. But all other traffic can just go out over the public internet directly. That can be a little less secure, but it is more scalable. And I would say, some might say that the VPN is dead or it's obsolete. And in some cases, they might be right. But I would say that a VPN is probably better than nothing when it comes to working on a public network. Really, the next step in the evolution is implementing a zero trust framework. ZTNA is much more complex to deploy. Again, today we're covering things that are very easy, low-hanging fruit to deploy to secure your end users. But that next evolution in ZTNA, of course, we could spend hours talking about that. So if you're interested, please reach out.
Our last technology here is, or solution is patch management. This is the process of distributing and applying updates to IT resources, whether it's third-party applications, operating systems, mobile devices, or remote or on-premise endpoints. There's a few different things, three different types of patches here. You'll have security updates, which are security patches that will address a known vulnerability in any of those items I mentioned before. This is key because hackers are often looking for those specifically to attack, those unpatched endpoints. Feature updates, it'll bring new features to apps and devices that can improve the performance and productivity. And then bug fixes, they're typically addressing minor issues, not often security risks, but can help with that performance. Formal patch management process is going to take a holistic approach. So not every patch needs to be addressed right away. So you want to prioritize the security risk patches, but also minimize downtime. So that's the balance that you're trying to strike there. Basically, that patch management lifecycle is identifying all of your assets, then monitor for those incoming patches, prioritizing them, testing them before you deploy them, and then deploying and documenting those patches that you went ahead and deployed. So, and then patch management as a service, again, a couple of times it's been mentioned, but there are bigger things that you can handle from an IT standpoint. This is something that you can offload to a managed service provider to manage all of your patches.
Yeah, something that needs to be done, but it's not always top of mind. So offloading that from your team, having someone else be responsible for it, making sure it gets done, could save your team a lot of time and let them focus and strategize on bigger initiatives.
Real quick, I know we have just 1 minute. There's been a few questions that we'll get to in a wrap-up email as well, but there's been questions regarding like LastPass versus Keeper, CrowdStrike versus Defender, Proofpoint versus KnowBe4. There's been a lot of those questions. I would say as a general statement, it's important to know what you are currently leveraging and do that full audit and assessment. This is something ATC can absolutely help with, and then understand what your business needs are, where you're trying to go, to then find a solution that fits your needs, not jamming a square peg into a round hole, but understanding you and what your needs are and finding the solution that fits you. So there's some other questions that we'll get to in a follow-up, but I wanted to just try and address those holistically.
Nicely said. Again, thank you everyone for joining. We do have an upcoming webinar and demo with Keeper Security. That's on April 17th at 2 o'clock. They're going to be covering their password management solution. They actually take it a step further and have a PAM or privilege access management solution secrets manager as well. The link is here at the bottom of the slide, but we are going to be sending that out to you after the webinar. And there will also be a survey that goes out. We want to hear your feedback. We want to know what topics that you would like us to cover in the next webinar. But again, thank you everyone for joining. Let's lock it down.
Thank you.